I had an affair. I cheated on my husband 3 times until another man, and I got careless and got caught. He didn't catch us. Thank God. It would destroy him. Well, that would ruin it even more. In the end, our marriage broke up anyway, but at least he didn't see anything. No, a colleague caught us. Someone who was jealous of our success and didn't miss the opportunity to catch us. It's not like I wanted to do that on purpose. My therapist helped me understand that nothing just happens. Every day we make choices, and the consequences of these choices change our lives. She explained to me that choices are made even when we don't realize it. So, I had an affair. I would like to say that I was not myself, but then I drank only 3 glasses of wine. He was a nice man, and we talked and joked for a long time. We worked together, often participated in the same projects. Sometimes they even joked that we were working spouses, and everyone laughed. My husband was smiling. Good. As an official working husband, I'm passing on her shoe purchases to you. His wife was picking it up. And I'm handing you the toilet seat lowering training. We are waiting for reports. We laughed, hugged, and parted ways after the parties. My husband liked them. He offered to invite them to our company. We really spent a lot of time together. I won't describe who looked like who. We were young, active, and let it stay that way. My husband was the oldest. He was 30. The rest were in their 20s. I had a good job, and eventually I became a team leader. This sometimes required trips. It didn't bother my husband. He supported me. When I returned, we spent time together and tried to stay close. Although sometimes it became routine. We were together for 8 months before the wedding, and we were married for 3.5 years. One day, after a busy day, my colleague and I had dinner. The conversation turned to how we value our spouses. Then there were light jokes, fleeting glances. That evening, we both went to our rooms. I was thinking about him, and I couldn't sleep. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. He came with wine. We talked, but everything got out of control. After that, I felt guilty, ashamed, and confused. The next morning, we barely spoke. It's been a rough day. Then there are several weeks of silence. Then we talked, apologized to each other, and decided to forget about it. But the situation was repeating itself. Months passed. My husband began to suspect something. I lied that it was because of work. He supported me by suggesting that a colleague look after me on business trips. Ironically, without knowing the whole truth. One winter, on a business trip, we got stuck because of a snowstorm. My husband called and advised me to spend time with a colleague. We drank and talked. Then the situation happened again. When everything came to light, there were serious consequences. My boss called us separately. He was very disappointed. They stripped me of my position, promised to keep me at work, but made it clear that there would be no more career growth. A colleague left the company. My husband was angry and spoke harshly about him. Everything fell apart. I still remember the consequences with pain and regret. He left behind a devastated wife and a 5-year-old son. I think it took her years to come to her senses. It took 8 years before she remarried to an elderly man who took great care of her and her son. He asked his son what kind of car he would like to get for his 16th birthday and got emotional when the boy told him that he would like to have his last name more than a car. With a stroke of his pen, H was forever erased from his life, and his new father, despite his mother's objections, gave him a first-class sports car. After H's departure, he never saw his son again, although his wife tried to find him to remind him that she had divorced him, but their son had not. I found that my life was suddenly divided into segments, epics, if you will. My life was DI before cheating and PI after cheating. I remember that DE was full of light and happiness, and PI was full of dullness and despair. Fortunately, PI didn't last as long as DE. Then it's time to choose a side. In our usually close circle, other couples broke up, and those who remained did not know how to relate to this. Who will we invite to barbecues, parties, and visits? Casual flirtations and jokes were a thing of the past. They were afraid that it would cause unpleasant memories for those who were still around. I was even glad when we sold the house and went our separate ways. I'm sure the other couples breathed a sigh of relief, but not in front of us. The women in the circle were sympathetic to my distress, offering me support and making sure that I didn't get too close to their husbands. After all, I'd already ruined one happy marriage, and I shouldn't have pushed my luck. Things were even worse with H. The men supported him, but at the same time made sure that he never found himself in a close environment with their wives. Husband and Mrs. H. They supported me much more. After all, they were offended, right? It's not their fault that they ended up in the mess their lives have become. Then I had to move on to the next phase. Tell your parents, friends, and relatives. I disappointed both families, but both forgave me, even though my marriage didn't survive. I still send his parents Christmas cards and gifts for their birthdays. They always send me postcards in return, and after a few years his parents started inviting me to visit if I came to town. I never went in, but I thanked them heartily for their kindness. The first victim of the PI era was our personal lives. We distanced ourselves, suffered from distrust and tension, tried to be close, but nothing worked. It took 3 weeks before my husband moved back, and another 6 weeks before we made any attempt at rapprochement. It was a complete disaster. We were both afraid. He was afraid of comparisons with age, and being considered insufficient, I was afraid that I would do something wrong and cause unpleasant memories. As the months passed, things got better, mostly. We tried to take care of each other, but then I felt that he was moving away. At first I understood this, but in the end I began to resent it. Didn't he see how hard I was trying? How much do I love him? We went to consultations, and it helped. It helped us realize that everything was over between us. I had destroyed his trust, and no matter how hard I tried to repair the relationship, the wound was too big. So after a year and a half, we broke up. The divorce wasn't controversial, it was just split in half. I didn't even cry when I received the last documents. We saw each other from time to time because our town wasn't very big. We always greeted each other and were polite, but that was it. I remember how my heart sank in the 4th year of PI when I looked through the window of a cafe in the city center and saw him with a woman. She was smiling, sitting next to him, holding his hand, a gesture that every woman recognizes as a sign of special closeness. I returned home and cried for the last time. After scattering my resume everywhere, I received an offer from a company located 2 states away from us. It was a good step forward and exactly what I needed. After saying goodbye to my friends, I kissed my parents and moved on. Now I have entered the era of PR after the divorce. I was thinking about the counselor I went to for a few months after the divorce. She really helped me, not by sympathizing or blaming, but mostly just listening. At the penultimate session, she surprised me by pulling her blouse out of her skirt and lowering her belt a little. There was a rather large scar on the side of her thigh. She straightened her clothes and sighed. We were young, about 16 or 17, and my friend asked her older brother to get us some alcohol. It was mostly liquor, so we got drunk quickly. We went deep into the forest so that we could not be seen, and after dark we lit a fire. It wasn't very big, and one thing led to another, pranks began, and one boy jumped over the campfire. Soon we were cheering each other on, and we were doing well. I was jumping for the 5th time when I stumbled and fell sideways onto the coals. I've been in the hospital for 3 weeks, and this scar will never go away. After receiving my diploma, I realized that jumping through fire was my conscious decision. The more often I did this, the easier it became for me, until I became careless. This scar is my price. What I'm trying to say is that you made a conscious decision to start a relationship outside of marriage, and when nothing happened, when you realized it might go unnoticed, you did it over and over again until you were caught. She paused for a moment before continuing, repeating. You did it over and over again until you got careless and got caught. Do you understand? You can't say that it happened by accident. Your choice to continue meant that even though you jumped over fire several times and felt safe, you eventually stumbled and fell. The scars that you carry are inside, and they will never disappear, but they will fade over time. Next time you have to make a choice, don't forget about your scars. I thought about it a lot over the next week before I realized she was right. I could blame X for everything. He showed up at my door, but he didn't force me to let him in, and everything that happened as soon as the door closed behind him was a mutual decision, just like the subsequent times were my own choice. And here I am. I've been divorced for 4 years now. I found out through relatives that my husband had found someone else. They had been married for a year and had a son. I started dating about 6 months after the divorce, but there was no spark with any of them. I admit, sometimes I let someone into my life, just to avoid feeling lonely. Immediately after the last of them left, I lay in bed, looking back at my life, and realized that I had to let go of the past if I wanted to be happy again. I stopped going to bars and noisy places, joined a gym, and began participating in social activities. As soon as I got in shape, I started participating in 5 and 10 kilometers races. I've never finished in the top 10, but I've made a lot of friends. One running mate and I got along so well that we trained together. After training, we started drinking coffee, then having lunch, then having dinner. We dated for 4 months before we became closer. He was so attentive and kind that I burst into tears, feeling support and acceptance. For months later, we were together, and he hinted that he wanted to move on to a more serious level when I told him why I wasn't married. I wanted him to see me for who I am. I assured him that the mistakes I had made in the past were just mistakes. Mistakes that I wasn't going to repeat. I didn't know that he was also going through a divorce because of betrayal. His belief that once a person has failed, it means he will do it again, destroyed our relationship. I grieved for a while, but then I moved on. The following year, I found someone who could forgive me. He was 7 years older than me, slim and active. We met at a competition and both crossed the finish line at the same time. I was so happy that while doing the victory dance, I lost my balance, bumped into him, and we both fell. Instead of getting upset, he laughed. I tried to apologize, and he chuckled. You know, if you wanted to get my attention, you could just smile. Attacking is a bit too much. However, I'll forgive you at dinner. I hope you like French cuisine. He handed me a business card. Call me and tell me what time suits you. It's a bit of an elite place, so wear a nice dress. I was still trying to answer when he said goodbye. My running friend laughed. It didn't take long, did it? Did you know that he ranks 4th in the ranking of the most desirable bachelors in the city? Well done. The restaurant was great. He was dressed with taste, and I was wearing my best dress. It seemed to me that it emphasized my legs, and judging by the look of my companion, I was right. The date went well, as did the following ones. He was kind and caring, and I felt that it wasn't just sympathy, it was developing into real feelings. I told him about the past. He listened to me, handed me napkins, and supported me. I confessed that I was ready to be honest, open, and devoted if he decided to continue the relationship. He smiled softly. I know about your past. Yes, I was interested because I care about you. You made a mistake, but you took responsibility for it, and that says a lot. He brought an envelope and a box. The document stated that I was on probation in our relationship, and I had to be honest and loyal. I signed it. There was a ring in the box, and I burst into tears of joy. And so began my new chapter. Happily ever after. I didn't think I deserved it, but I learned to be worthy and did everything to prove it. I recently returned to my hometown for a reunion and saw my ex with his wife. We talked. I apologized one last time. He forgave me because he was tired of carrying the pain. I said it took me years to forgive myself, but I did it. We spent the rest of the evening showing photos of the children. That's the whole moral. Sometimes good people make mistakes. Even if they are not caught, it will remain in the memory. I hope my husband would forgive me. You can see for yourself how it turned out. I keep a close eye on my daughters, and when they grow up, I'll tell them everything. And I'll explain how important it is to remember about internal scars, so that they don't make my mistakes. That's all. I feel better. Thanks for reading.